Hello there. Welcome into the CardWard Podcast. This is like episode 2.5, 2.5. So usually we'd be doing like a show or an episode like once a month, but we're going to look into possibly doing interviews now, and that's what this is today. When you're listening, so today you're going to hear John, SaltiestGaijin, the other half of the podcast, interviewing Adam, the Dallas Regional Championship winner, who won the whole event playing standard Gruul aggro. So I hope you enjoy listening to that. Before we get into that, if you have been enjoying our podcast, or if you enjoy just seeing any content with me, Jaffer, and John, SaltiestGaijin, like my streams, or just listening or watching the podcast, be sure to, if you're watching here on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to whichever channel you're watching it on. If you're listening to wherever, be sure to uh, give us a rating, like a review or whatnot, and come by my streams whenever John's around, to twitch.tv/Jaffer. I do have John on my stream about once a week now, or once every other week. So, yeah, and be sure to follow the CardWard Podcast on Twitter, and let us know how you've been liking the episodes. But we're going to get right into the episode, and hope you enjoy it.
All right, we're here with Adam Weiss, the regional championship from RC Dallas here past Memorial Day weekend, right? No, the week after Memorial Day weekend. Adam, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you just finished up the school year, you said, right?
Yeah, I'm a middle school teacher, and so I came back from RC Dallas and then was back in school the next day taking my kids on a field trip.
Oh, fun.
I teach 8th grade, and I'm very glad they've graduated now, and I have the rest of the summer free to do what I want.
I can imagine. Well, I imagine a lot of people out there who, or maybe seen you play on, of course, play at the RC, maybe on Nerd Rage streams as well, but they're probably not super duper familiar with you. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so Adam Weiss, I am the what people have called me around this local store is the burn boy, because all I do is I play burn or mono red aggro. If you look through my like MTG Goldfish history, it's just all burn and mono red aggro. I have been playing competitive for a few years now. I started like right before COVID, and then COVID happened. But we came back about a year and a half ago now. I ended up winning an NRG Modern 5K, where I actually played you in the semifinals.
Yes, you did.
You were on Just Sky Breach at the time. I was on Burn, and I managed to win. And then I managed to beat Zoria's Hammer in the finals. And so that kind of solidified my reputation as this guy plays Burn. So I've been playing Burn for all this time. When I transitioned to Pioneer, it was all like mono red aggro, because Burn isn't exactly viable. But then that continued on into Standard as well. There's not enough burn spells in Standard, so we played quote-unquote mono red aggro, Gruul aggro, with like 6 green cards in it or something like that. But yeah.
No, that's excellent. You definitely are known. I mean, I think you get a few nicknames. Burn Boy, Burn God is another one that you get sometimes.
I think it is only the fanny pack crew that calls me the Burn God.
Yeah, it's quite the interesting set of names, but yeah. So of course, from the sounds of it, we are jumping a little bit all over the place right now, but of course, yeah, you're from Chicago. You're matter of fact, you're local to like Nerd Rage Gaming, right?
Yeah, Nerd Rage is my local store. Been playing all the modern Wednesday nights there the last like 3 years or something like that.
Okay.
So if you ever tune into one of their streams, you'll see me on either like one of the first rounds, because they like getting me nice and out of the way, because they'll always have time to do the backup feature match when I play.
It's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, and you mentioned that you started competing, like you said, right after COVID, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What inspired you to go from just playing Magic to play Magic to competing at like the NRG series and like the regional championship?
yeah. So like I've been playing Magic for the last like 16 years or so now, ever since I was about 12 years old. Um, I learned at my summer camp where these guys were playing, the guys in my cabin were playing Magic, and I was like, "This is a cool card game. Let me learn how to play this." And since then, I've been playing Magic with my friends. My best friend David Ains um, got me into competitive because he was playing Magic at the same camp. It's around the same time. We picked it up. We'd always play with each other when we like hung out on weekends or whatever like that.
Mhm.
And he said, "Hey, like I'm getting into competitive Magic. I can let you borrow a deck. Do you want to go to a Nerd Rage event with me?" And I was like, "Sure. Like sounds fun. I'll lose, but it'll be good." And then he started letting me borrow his decks to go into the Wednesday night quote unquote FNMs or the weeklies. And I was like, Burn seems like a lot of fun, but he also enjoyed playing it. And I was like, well, we can't both play this deck, so I built my own Burn deck to just play so we could both do it at the same time. Found a lot of success with it. Was really enjoying it. Really enjoyed the fact that when I play mono red aggro, I have time to go get food or dinner in between rounds after the first round, or just like have time to sit and relax. Um, it's actually funny at the RC, there was at about like the 5th round or something like that, or maybe it was the 4th round. The first one I lost. I looked at my opponent and I looked up at the clock after our game 1, and there were 30 minutes left on the clock. And I said to him, "This is the first round I've had that's gone past 20 minutes."
Yeah,
So,
playing the decks you do, that's gonna be a oddity, if anything.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah, well,
yep.
yeah, I know, and yeah, you have this storied relationship with red decks, but more on your competitive career so far. Of course, you recently joined a team, right? You're on Team Flex Slot. Shout
Yeah.
out to our mutual friend George Jabor over at Flex Slot. Why Team Flex Slot? What got you interested in joining their team?
Well, after like a year or so after winning the Energy 5K, and right after we had teamed for you and I had teamed for Indy
Hmm.
and Energy like the Team Modern event in 2013, I realized that like the only way I could get better than I was to join a team and get like actual practice and just have a group of people that I respect and I talk to about Magic all the time, and I can listen to their feedback and they'll listen to mine. Because I was on I'm in the Burn Discord, and like there are some people there. I'm like, I need to make a separate server of like the 6 people I listen to in that server, and no one else. Um, but George approached me for Team FlexLot. He was like, "Hey, we're putting some people together. We're trying to get a wide variety of players. So we've got 4 blue-white control players, 1 combo player, and we would like you to be our aggro player." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, that sounds great.
Uh,
Be able to talk about stuff. It's a really great team full of really great, talented players. Like George is on there, Garrick, uh, or Garrick Relentless, or see, I don't remember what his MTGO name is, but you'll see him like win challenges or top 8 challenges on Blue White Control all the time.
mhm.
Um, Dom Striker is a great combo player.
Yep.
Um, Justin Brickman's on there. He's done everything. He's been playing competitive Magic for years and years.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really great group of guys to get a lot of feedback from.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of people that I also talked to, a lot of your teammates over the years. So like especially more recently, George and Dom have been people I've talked to about various things in different formats. But
Yeah.
no, it's awesome, and it's really important. This is a good lesson for anybody listening. Is it's good to acknowledge sometimes when you plateau. Like it's part of sports, it's a part of academics, it's a part of everything. And acknowledging that, and then knowing what you need to do to get past that plateau is really important. Because the very first time I was ever on a playtesting team, and this is like 15 years ago now. Uh,
You're
Almost
old.
15 years, yeah. I'm 29. I'm not that old yet. But the first time I really started practicing, it's like I go and compete was, I was in my mid to late teens. And it was the same thing. I was starting to recognize that I couldn't grow on my own. And so over the years, you join teams and you join different teams and you learn and you grow and you get better. And, it's a very important part of not just competitive Magic, but competitive anything. So, but speaking again about your specific career, though, do you have any like long-term goals with competing in Magic? Is there anything specific that you've wanted to do besides winning a regional championship? Of course, you've already done
Uh,
that.
Honestly, winning an RC was not on the list. The like long-term dream goal I had was qualifying for a pro tour, and like maybe many years in the future qualify for worlds. But really it was like my goal up until recently, that was like what I thought was my achievable goal, was just make day 2 of an RC.
Mm.
Because I only went to one RC in the past. It was the other standard one in San Diego.
Sure.
And for some reason I played mono white control, which was given my pedigree was not the play.
No.
But I did it anyways. And I went 4-4, didn't
Mhm.
make day 2. I was like happy to have just gone, but I was like, my next goal is just make day 2. And as people have been telling me, mission accomplished.
Yes. And one of the things that made me really excited to see you do so well at the RC was, and I think a lot of people fall into this, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with this. It's just like you did in San Diego, where sometimes you play what you perceive to be the best deck, but it may not be the best deck for you. And so seeing you do well in Dallas, playing Gruul aggro, a deck that a lot of people would say was going to be there, but not a lot of people probably put a lot of stock in, because historically it hasn't done particularly well, especially in an open deck list setting. But to see you succeed playing, a deck that's more true to your nature as a player, and then succeed doing that is an amazing thing to see. And I think it's a inspiration to a lot of players to just be more honest with themselves about what they like and what they should play going into these large events. It's not always about just playing Jund or whatever the best deck is. It's about, playing what you like to play and then just doing that exceedingly well.
Yeah. I think that, like, for what it's worth, the Gruul aggro deck that it's actually Stanley 2099's deck
Mhm.
that he and I were working on, because he's one of the few people in the Burn server I trust. We were going through it. He was like he was telling me like, hey, test out these cards, and I was like, hey, maybe we should try out this for a sideboard or configuration or something like that. And so he did like 95% of the work.
Mhm.
But when we were going down to when we were looking at it, one of the things we realized is that, like, I actually think our list is actually better in an open deck list environment.
Mhm.
And actually open deck lists are better for us than it otherwise would be.
Yeah, I could see that. Having looked at your deck list, there's definitely there's something to be said for getting in your opponent's head slightly, especially
Yeah.
with aggro decks, where and it's also a matchup I imagine a lot of teams and players did not prep for in general. So some of the cards in your deck were distracting, just looking at it from a deck list perspective.
Yeah, like looking at like Snakeskin Veil or something like that,
Mhm.
just like knowing that that's your opponent's deck list
Yes.
is just exhausting.
Yes.
Like, it really is, just knowing that that thing's there and that you have to play around it and it's going to be annoying to you.
Yeah, it's actually as a player myself, it's one of the reasons I actually love open deck list settings, which you only get at, of course, professional REL level play, or in top eights of events, of course. But yes, having a one of Snakeskin Veil, having even like just like any combat trick really is.
Yeah.
I just always have to be highly aware of what you might have, and that will make your opponent more prone to making mistakes.
I think it opens up a lot of opportunities for your opponents to make mistakes. I think
Yes.
it also, just like seeing your opponent's list, especially for a deck with like the 12 one drops we did have, the 4 Ruckus, 4 Kumano, and 4 Swiftspear, being able to perfectly set up your first 3 turns being able to play around cut down or no more lies or go for the throat however you want is, I think, puts a lot, like, we joke about like agency in Magic, and like one of the quotes that was in an article, I think Frank Carson wrote it, was like, I said that you don't need agency if your opponent is dead.
It's true.
But I think that, like, being able to look at, like, my opponent is on Golgari and he's running 3 cut downs, that tells me I want to, like, be playing my Kumanos first, so I can go into a turn 2 Swift Spear with a 1 mana up to hold up against, like, their turn 1 cut down.
Yeah.
Or I see, like, oh, it's control. I want to be plotting my Demonic Ruckus. I want to be plotting my Slick Shots.
Yeah.
I want to be making sure that my Fugitive Codebreakers go out and get no more lies first, so that my Slick Shots are free. Things like that.
Yeah.
I think it puts a lot of the control of what's going to happen in the first 3 or 4 turns of the game in my hands, and takes away a lot of what the opponent wants to do.
No, I completely agree. Historically speaking, this is why proactive decks have done so well in the past. I know a lot of, especially your team, would probably like to beg to differ that control decks have done well in the past because of this. But, typically one of the most important things, especially in modern day Magic, is being able to set the pace of the game. And when you're the aggro deck in a matchup and you know what your opponent has, it's much easier to set the pace in your favor. So that you're not falling into the normal pitfalls of how the reactive decks are built to answer you. So I think I agree with you in general, because like I really liked the list that you guys settled on. It was a little different than some of the other lists that were out there, but a lot of the other lists that were out there were built not with open deck lists in mind. I think that's a very important thing to consider especially when you're preparing for a tournament. So you are, of course, going to be preparing for the Pro Tour soon, or you already are.
Yeah.
So that'll be another thing that you have to think about while building decks, and it's why sometimes you see certain builds of lists at things like the Pro Tour do better there than they would, say, in a modern MTGO league or something like that, where you're playing in the dark.
Yeah. I will say, before I played the RC, I went in for 3 leagues with Gruul aggro, and I went 0-3 drop, 0-3 drop, 2-3.
Nice. Real confidence
And so,
building.
a real confidence builder going into it. But we have to say that I got all my bad luck out of the way.
That's a good thing to do sometimes. Sometimes you just gotta, even if it's just for the mental game, you gotta get it out of the way. Now, of course, we know why you chose Gruul going into the RC. Because realistically, there was no other deck for you. I could have maybe seen you on Convoke, but Gruul definitely seems more your speed. But as far as with the Gruul deck, of course, you're on Team Flex slot. I believe a few of your teammates were qualified. I know one of them ended up having to defer due to all the travel issues. Was Gruul the team deck going into the event? Was everybody a Gruul believer?
So, people on FlexLat were not a Gruul believer at all. They kind of let me do my thing because I'm the aggro guy on the team. But I actually worked with some other players for the RC because they were going to it. So I went with the Evanston crew, which is another suburb of Chicago.
Yep.
And there are some players there like Ken, Ty, who went 10-3-1 in the RC, and is qualified for the PT as well, and a few other players really helped me like test and go through my lines.
Yeah.
And what they were saying is like, yeah, this Gruul aggro list, like, there are some games that are like close, but a lot of the games, like, I was just running them over and they weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
Like, I was playing against someone on Team or Analyst. And it happened when we were testing, but also happened at the RC. Like, I can kill you turn 3.
Yeah.
Like, they gained 2 life. They're at 22, and they still died.
Yeah.
In 1 turn.
Because you're setting a certain pace, and a lot of decks in the format were not prepared to be able to prevent death immediately in the first 3 turns of the game, because most decks couldn't kill the other person in the first 3 turns of the game. So I think I think it was a excellent way to approach the metagame. Of course, we've talked a little bit about obviously you love like red aggro decks, right? You mentioned you get time in between your matches every round because you play these red aggro decks. But where does that love for red aggro decks come from? Is there a specific place that you find that love?
So one of the first decks I ever played at that summer camp was this mono red aggro deck with like, we're talking about like back when like damage was still on the stack, so like Mog Fanatic was in there and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it was just so much fun to just like hit people in the face with spells and know that I was winning the game from an early point. That's where a lot of it came from. A lot of it did come from just borrowing my friend's David decks to go to Wednesday Night Modern. He had me try like things like Living End and a few other things, and they just didn't really like feel right. But whenever I was playing Burn, everything just kind of clicked, and like I'm a math teacher, and so doing 7 times 3 is pretty easy for me. And that's really all the kind of math you need to do sometimes. I think also, and this like I think this is like one of the stereotypes that I think still exists out there, and though a lot of people know it's not true, is that like aggro decks don't require a lot of thinking.
No, that's
and
misnomer at best.
Yeah. Because like I mean, it's true. Some of our games are just like put all these things on the table, kill you instantly, game's over. I'm gonna go get food. But I think some of the most fun games I've had are where like they really are more like games of chess, where you're trying to think of like, what is my opponent trying to do in the next 2 turns that's going to prevent me from winning the game. Something that Coverage talked about at the RC finals, it was Corey and BDD, I think, said that like there aren't a lot of decisions to make with these decks. Like I might make what is like realistically like 3 or 4 decisions in a game that actually matter.
Yeah.
But each of those decisions is really, really, really important.
Yes.
And if you make one of those decisions wrong, you're going to lose the game. So like I play Legacy and Delver, and like sometimes like if you ponder like or brainstorm and put 2 cards back, like the order of what cards you put back when like really doesn't matter sometimes. I think those like sometimes those micro decisions you can get away with making a wrong call because it's not always that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But if you're playing Burn, like you can't make any of those wrong decisions because you will just lose the game off of it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's a really good point from them because I had actually noted that as well when I watched back the finals with the coverage, because it reminds me of a long time ago when I learned how to play the deck Birthing Pod in Modern, where there's like a million lines you can take.
Yeah.
So what I learned was when I was playing Birthing Pod versus when I was playing like say Quarkline Ironworks, right? Was that where Birthing Pod I might have 20 decisions that I get to make, or 20 multiple choice answers for each question. So there's percentiles of correct, right?
Yeah.
Versus when you play something that's a lot more proactive, say like a Quarkline Ironworks or even like a Burn, and this is why Burn gets likened to combo decks a lot, is the you're only going to make maybe 4 or 5 decisions throughout the entire game, but the options you even have in those decisions are so much fewer than something like a Birthing Pod that the percentile of how correct each one is much greater because of that. So it's always something to keep in mind when you're learning how to play a deck. If you only have so many options, the one you pick matters a ton more than when you have a ton of them. So of course, it's a really good lesson to see. This is why we call you the Burn Master, because you understand these things.
Yeah.
But so it sounds like we've had a deep-seated love for red aggro decks since the beginning, the summer camp meta, if you will.
They're always just so much fun to play, and you can get so many games in when you're just jamming with friends.
It's true. more games
Like,
equals more fun, right? That's how it works.
exactly.
I don't think
It's
George
exactly
would
how it
agree
works.
with us, but like
I don't think George agrees with this at all.
he's a maximize the length of the game for the most fun kind of guy. But
He's also a minimize the amount of grief for the most fun kind of guy.
listen, I don't think anybody likes getting griefed, but George really doesn't like getting griefed.
No, George hates grief.
To share a funny story that may not be timely was that Modern Horizons 2, of course, just the pre-release has just happened, and I was running a midnight pre-release, which had a teammate of mine, another friend of George's named Victor. So we sent George a picture of 6 griefs with 4 different arts at 3:00 in the morning.
You're going to give him nightmares.
That was the goal. A Chthonian nightmare, if you will.
Yeah.
But moving on with these red decks, it sounds like really the one that sort of really got the love going was the Modern Burn Sans like 2019, 2020, 21.
Yeah, back when Eidolon of the Great Rebel was a good card.
Okay, that's a good way to chalk up the eras of Burn, right? Like, there's the pre-Eidolon days, the Eidolon days, the post-Eidolon days. It's
the three eras.
Pretty distinct eras. But now it sounds like it is. Is it Eidolon? Is there a specific card that you absolutely love in all your Burn decks? Like, what's a card that you would always play?
I get hate for this all the time online. Play with Fire is actually a modern playable card in Burn.
Yeah.
Play with Fire, the shock that lets you scry one if you hit someone in the face from Midnight Hunt is such an underratedly powerful card. Like, obviously it sees play in Pioneer and it sees play in Standard.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually really good in Modern Burn.
I think I'd have to agree with you because I've sat, as you mentioned, we've teamed together before for Team Trios, and I've seen you play with Fire in Modern, and it reminds me of this is a long time ago. I think this was pre-Eidolon days or right around Eidolon coming out. Like Magma Jet was a card people would play at one point in time. And it gives me similar vibes to that, but being obviously 1 mana for the same amount of damage for only half the scry. But, scrying 1 when you don't draw a lot of cards is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I think this is also why I think like the Surveil lands are so good in Modern Burn too, and every aggro deck should be playing at least 1.
Yeah.
If you could like think of aggro decks as like they need a certain amount of turns to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do anything to reduce that amount of turns, it's kind of like the aggro deck cast Time Walk.
Yeah.
And so like, for instance, when we were discussing Play with Fire in the beginning for Modern Burn, there are a lot of times as Modern Burn you have to keep a 1 land hand because you've got like a bunch of burn spells and you're not going to go down to like try to fix it, or you're on the draw or something like that, so you think you might get lucky. Being able to like play a Goblin Guide or a Swift Spear turn 1, smacking someone in the face, and then in your turn 2 upkeep casting Play with Fire, if you bin something that's not a land and then you draw your land, you get to play it. It's basically like the Play with Fire paid for itself, so it's just a free card.
Yeah, it's being able to fix your draws is worth quite a lot in a deck with such a low land count. Because you could also, I imagine, there's going to be games where you have 3 lands in play already, and you put a land away with it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
especially at the end of the game.
Yeah, like there's 2, on both ends of the spectrum there. It sort of solves one of the age-old problems a burn deck has, which is drawing too many lands, right? And
100%.
Sunbaked Canyon is another card that sort of helps with that problem, but it only helps with 1/2 of that problem when you draw too many. So I think I'd have to agree with you, not just because you're the burn boy, but the logic makes sense. And the more I thought about it, and the more our team fanny pack burn player told me it was wrong, the more I thought you were right. He hasn't done well with burn in a while, so but you keep doing well with it. So
Okay, but was he on Roiling Vortex?
Yes, but only after
Okay,
we forced it.
okay. Whirling Vortex is like the worst card to go and burn. I think that card's complete trash.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I mean, I
Like,
didn't hate it when like Rhinos was a thing and they had like a million free spells, but like 2 mana to sometimes just do nothing.
sometimes it's worse than 2 mana do nothing.
Yeah.
Um, like I've had to try to convince people back when like 4-color Omnath was like actually a deck to not put it in against their 4-color Omnath opponents because it taxes your mana so hard because you
Yeah.
want to keep paying for that ability to prevent them from gaining life.
Yeah.
If your Omnath opponent's just like putting fetch lands into play,
Like
sometimes they'll just have more fetch lands than you had mana, and
Yeah.
then why did you play the card in the first place? You could have spent that mana you've held up the entire game actually killing your opponent.
yeah, this sounds like there's better things to be doing.
Yeah.
So
Shout out to Justin Brickman for destroying me on 4-color Omnath to make me learn that lesson, by the way.
hey, what are teammates for, right? Other than crushing your hopes and dreams of certain cards.
Oh,
Uh,
100%.
Now, looking forward, you've qualified for 2 tournaments. You got across 2 tournaments off your bucket list. You have, of course, the Pro Tour in Amsterdam that's coming up
Yeah.
here, and then you have the World Championship that you'll be attending. That's in October?
Yeah, it's like the last weekend in October, something like that, the 27th and 28th.
And that'll be, of course, at MagicCon Las
Yeah.
Vegas. Now,
Yes.
we'll talk about the Pro Tour here in a minute, and we're not trying to like maybe count your chickens too soon or anything like that. But when you win the World Championship, what's your likeness card gonna look like? I imagine it's gonna go straight into burn decks, but
Okay, it's gonna go straight into burn decks, of course. I thought about this I saw your question before, and I thought about it for a while. Do you know if they make you have it be a creature or if it can be something else?
I believe it will end up having to be a creature.
Okay.
At least super type creature. It could probably have other super types too, but
Okay. So that's frustrating to me a little bit because what I really want to have is shock, but with the skull crack effect on it.
oh sure.
Because like we have wild slash and it's just like bad because you need to have something with power 4 or greater, and it still only does half of Skullcrack.
Sure.
But I think like Play with Fire and Wild Slash have like kind of shown that like we can put other effects on Shock and have it be good.
Sure.
And so I want to have that kind of effect in something. And so if I'm allowed to not choose a creature, I'd choose that. If I had to choose a creature card,
Mhm.
I mean, it's going to be like a hasty 1-drop. There's probably ways where you can do like combine the shock that does Skullcrack effect and put it on a creature somehow or something like that. But really, like, I want more variety of if
Sure.
Wizard won't give me more bolts and they won't give me more lava spikes or chain lightning or anything like that,
Okay.
then I want shocks that are playable.
I like that idea. And in my head, the first thing when you said it, I was like, what if it's just a 1-mana 1/1 with flash, prowess, and ETB, deal 1 damage to any target, and players can't gain life this turn.
I would take that.
Like,
I think, like, honestly, I don't. The problem with 1/1s is like Orcish Bowmaster exists,
yeah.
and so
All right,
I
we'll
don't
make
want
it
to
a
just
1/2.
like. But then it's just like strictly better Monastery Swiftspear.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's legendary, it's like fine, quote unquote.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I would like to be the first person to do a spell,
That's
not
fair.
have a creature.
I like that. I like that idea. But yeah, you'll have to remember you got to shoot for the moon with these and then let them talk you down. It's the real trick to it, I think. But of course,
So
go ahead.
what I'll start with is lightning bolt with Skullcrack effect, and let them talk me down to shock.
let them bring me down from my because he's going standard sets.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Strictly better lightning bolt is too good. How about shock instead?
Well, I could see like if it was like a 1-mana, like instead of lightning bolt, like a lava spike.
Oh
Like
yeah,
or like a shock that's a lava spike where it can only hit the opponent and it has the skullcrack text on. I think that'd be fine in
yeah.
standard, right?
As long as it's an instant, I think it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's not gonna like break anything else. Like people have talked about, like, why can't we have like lightning bolt in Pioneer? And I'm like,
No.
have you thought about lightning bolt in
I
Pioneer?
don't think they've played lightning
It's
bolt
way
enough.
too good.
I know exactly who those people are. They're the people who haven't played a lot of lightning bolt. Like,
No, they have not. They're the people who are like, oh, I guess I'll get into Pioneer. And then they're like, this card seems fine. I'm like, this card is not fine. This card is busted.
yeah. Well, it's really funny in a recent set review I did for MH3. The question of would Flage be fine in Pioneer was like, no, they'd have to ban it in Pioneer. It would be way too good. Oh, it's an Uro that kills all my opponent's creatures with toughness 3 or less. That's exactly what I'd want in Pioneer.
Yeah, no, Flage is not good enough for Mountain Burn. Definitely too good for Pioneer anything.
Yeah, like I think it'll end up being a good card in Modern, but good. Speaking of Modern, of course,
Yeah.
you got the Pro Tour coming up at the end of this month. Pretty short turnaround on that.
Yes. I'm very excited to go to the Pro Tour. Very excited to get to go to Europe for the first time too, so it's like a mini vacation.
Yeah, it's Amsterdam. Be a fun place to unwind. Don't take pictures since you're a school teacher.
Yeah. I can take pictures of most parts of Amsterdam.
just not all of them, and
just not one part of Amsterdam.
listen here, I was strictly in the green light district of Amsterdam. That's what your students,
Yeah, exactly.
As far as your students know.
Exactly.
So of course, now are you allowed to say who you're playtesting with?
I don't know if they've told me not to. There's some. I'll say there are some people from the local energy grinder scene that have kind of taken me under their wing and helped me figure out what testing is like and team testing is like. Because it's my first time doing a testing house or anything like that, and so I'm really excited for the kind of experience and how much it's going to grow me as a player, even more.
No, I agree. I think you're gonna have a blast because it is, from my experience, it's almost like if you get to like cram for a test, but like really effectively and over like a week.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's going to be a lot of cool ideas flying around. MH3 gives so many opportunities for so many decks. I mean, not the ones I play, but so many other decks. But I think there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff coming out.
Saying there weren't a lot of burn goodies in MH3?
I'm saying there haven't been a lot of good burn goodies in the last like 5 years.
Hey, Play with Fire came out in the last 4 years.
Yeah, we got Play with Fire. We got Sunday Canyon.
There we go. See?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else, and I don't think... Oh, we got Slick Shot. Slick Shot's good. Slick Shot's good.
Yeah, Kumano as well, but that's not for Modern.
No. That card is nuts, though. That card's way too good.
It's very, very good. So we'll end this on, since you'll be playing Modern, early MH3 testing, of course, because it just, we just started getting our hands on cards. What's your favorite card from MH3 so far?
I don't know if I have a favorite card from MH3, honestly. I'm trying to think of what MH3 cards I've played in the last few days. I'll say one thing I'm excited for with maybe it's not for Modern, but for the draft. The energy mechanics is just so much fun. And I was doing some testing with my group yesterday, and the vehicles that tap to make 2 energy in limited.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot exactly what it's called. It's like it's bespoke battle wagon.
Mm-hmm.
That card is insane in limited.
Yeah.
Especially in multiples.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's tap, make 2 mana, and then tap, pay 3 mana and draw a card, or tap, make 2 energy, tap, pay 3 energy, draw a card.
Yeah.
You can just draw so many cards when you're sitting behind these 5/6s. Your opponents can't touch you.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of cool. Blue-red energy in drafts so far.
Yeah. Also, Amped Raptor. I wish that card had haste so badly instead of First Strike.
Yeah, then it'd be a burn card.
It would actually be a burn card. It would actually be good. You would take out like Skewer the Critics and Rift Bolt for like some other stuff. You might even go into like Mardu Burn so you can play Bump in the Night. So you just like actually have only 1 and 2 drops.
Yeah,
Um,
everything's a hit.
yeah, but Amped Raptor just like makes me sad.
It's a what could have been card for you.
It's a what could have been.
Make it a
It's
rare.
like it's
Give it first strike and haste. Somebody at Wizards of the Coast has it out for you.
100%. Oh, okay. No, my actual favorite card from MHJ, I found it, is going to be Meltdown.
There you
Because
go.
I hate Urza Saga tokens. I hate Shadow Spear. Like, get these out of my games.
I like it.
If I can blow them up, I'm having a good time.
Now listen, if your hammer matchup could, that non-existent hammer matchup could get any better, Meltdown's gonna do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Adam, it's been an absolute blast having you here. You're gonna be episode 2.5 of the podcast.
I'm
Our
honored.
follow-up to the regional championship, and maybe in the future we'd love to have you on more for a more actual topical podcast episode. Though I think you'll be in Amsterdam when we're recording the next episode, so we're not gonna ask you to phone in from Europe on that one. But again, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to come hang out with us and talk with our viewers, of course.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, always happy to have you. Well, as well as anybody from Team Flex Lot, really. As a member of Team Fanny Pack, you're our unofficial sister team.
Yeah.
Though,
You almost adopted me yourself.
Hey, listen, we almost had you, but our burn player had a problem with it, and then he's like,
George
I'm the
swiped
burn
me.
player, and then we lost our window, and we hate him for it. Just the truth. But of course, again, thank you again, Adam. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I wish you nothing but the best for the Pro Tour, and of course, the World Championship as well. But
Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
absolutely.
Thanks again for watching the episode or listening wherever you're consuming this content at. We appreciate you. And as always, be sure to let us know how you are liking the content. Let us know in the Discord server or on social media, or just leave a review or whatever it is you at Spotify or Apple Podcast. Well, we appreciate you, and thank you again for listening to the CardWard Podcast. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.